Investor Thrive Nation, what's going on? We got Jerry Norton, the GOAT, and we're going to talk to him today about his origin story, what got him started, how he's developed an awesome business, luxury flips. You have Flipster. What else you got going on?
All kinds of things. Doing deals in Puerto Rico.
You got the lake house in Montana. You got a lot going on. So we're going to dive into that. So stay tuned. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you can get more content like this, and visit Jerry's channel too. He's got awesome content. So jump in right here. Go to investorthrive.com right now to check out some of our free training on how you can make money as a real estate investor, or schedule a time with me so we can chat about our mastermind mentorship and how we can help you learn how to wholesale nationwide and grow your business. Jerry, how you doing?
Good.
Well, it's good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so Investor Thrive Nation, I got the GOAT right here, Jerry Norton, one of my awesome mentors that's helped me a ton. I want to thank you.
You're welcome.
Over air. Thanks for helping me so much. You really changed my life.
It's been great to be a small part of your success, Nathan. So thank you.
Big part. But anyway, Investor Thrive Nation, we got Jerry Norton. We're going to interview him today about the origin story. What got you started? People see where you're at right now, but I kind of want to dive in to see how you got there. And your story, and kind of tell us what you got going on in the future. Just kind of chat with you about your life and stuff like that. Is that cool?
Yeah, I'd love that.
Okay, so let's just dive right into it. I kind of want to know, how it all began. Did you always want to get into real estate?
No, in fact, I didn't start real estate till 27, although from a really early age, 19, 20, 21, I really wanted to make something of my life. I felt like God was calling me to do something big, but I had no idea. I didn't really grow up with much of an upbringing on entrepreneurship or business ownership. So starting to kind of learn a little bit about that in my 20s was like this brand new idea. I look at my kids now and I'm like, man, they've grown up with this, being around this so much that hopefully it's just kind of natural for them. But for me, it really wasn't. And I just kind of was trying to figure out life. I was bouncing around doing kind of minimum wage construction. But even at that time when I was doing construction, I wanted to find something that would be special and amazing. I wasn't okay with just having this mediocre life.
Right.
But it just took a while. I didn't know how to do it, how to figure it out.
Yeah, man. It usually does when you're trying something brand new to you, right? You say you didn't grow up with entrepreneurship.
And
a lot about it.
I got married right away, started having some kids. And
when did you get married, by the way?
So 21. Came back from a church mission.
Yeah.
Met my wife. We got married like 4 months later.
Some people would say that's really, really young, right?
Yeah, I think today it is. Today that's pretty young. And so I'm 27 here, kind of working in underground construction in Metro Detroit.
When you say underground construction, I don't really know what that means. Is that
it's utility work. The business, what they did is they would put in like water and sewer lines and electric, gas. And so it was outside. It was Michigan, so cold winters.
Oh, gosh.
And it was muddy. I'd get down in a hole. I'd have to dig around
You were really in the holes.
I literally would come home covered in mud every day. My wife would make me take off my clothes at the door so I wouldn't bring mud in. Yeah, basically. And that was my life, in my late 20s all the way up to 27. And then I heard about real estate, started to kind of, big picture. I think most people are like, oh, most millionaires did it through real estate. And I heard those stories.
We all have, right?
Yeah. And I started to kind of really focus on self-development. So I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Cool.
And I'm like, okay, real estate, there's this thing, real estate. And then through my older brother, I heard about wholesaling. And he's like, hey, Jerry, I'm going to go to this little wholesaling event, like a couple-day thing. Yeah. And you want to come along and let's go. So I go with him.
Were you hesitant? Were you like, I don't know, brother?
No, I was like looking. Okay. So I was like, let's go. What is this? I want to learn about this. Borrowed the money for the class, for the seminar,
That's how it usually goes in the beginning, put on a card or something.
And I go and I just, there's this distinct thing that happened, Nathan, that was really transformational. I'm in this group, and it wasn't very big. It was like maybe 20 people. Yeah. It was Robin Thompson. I don't know if you've ever heard that name. And there were people there that knew so much. And I was like, man, because I could tell by the way they were interacting, answering questions and things. And I'd go up to these people at break, and I'd say, man, you know so much. Tell me about what you're doing. And they're like, oh, well, I'm still working on my first deal. And I was like,
really?
How could that be? You know so much. And it was my first introduction to education versus like action,
Yeah.
application.
And there's probably a lot of people stuck in that analysis paralysis, right? The education where they know a lot.
Everybody's on a different path, a different journey. I get that. But I quickly learned that there's a big difference between knowing and doing. And so I decided, look, I don't want to be that guy. I want to actually do, you know, like I'm ready, let's go. And so I quickly learned some basics and I just went out there and I started talking, I started calling, and before you know it, I'm kind of like putting a few deals together. But I was scared. I mean, I had a family and I had this job and I had bills to pay.
You were juggling both in at that time.
Yeah, so I kind of side hustled it.
Got it.
And I kind of told myself, well, if I can get enough income from wholesaling and set that aside to basically replace my job for a year, then I'll go full time.
Got it, yeah.
And that was kind of like my safety net I created for myself.
And your wife was cool with that?
No, she wasn't. No, she grew up in a 9-to-5 family. Her dad worked at the same company for 30 years. She thought business and entrepreneurship, it was risky. It was just so foreign to her.
Right.
That she was not supportive of real estate, you know,
and at the beginning. But at that point, how many kids did you have, if you don't mind me asking?
We had 3.
Okay, so that is kind of a little scary right there. You're telling her, hey, look, I'm thinking about doing this new thing.
Yeah.
You got 3 mouths to feed. Well, 4.
And I did it all wrong. Like, I went ahead anyway. She was against it. And I got my first deal. And we were actually on the way home from the hospital with kid number 3.
Oh, wow.
And it was like on the way. And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to tell her.
Perfect timing.
I said, I think I'm going to tell her. So I said, hey, honey, I want to show you something. And we drove by. And this is like the ghetto in like Detroit.
Yeah.
You know,
I've never been to Detroit, but
it was a bad neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm buying that house right there. On the way home from the hospital. So bad timing, like really bad timing. And she was like, what? Kid. But that all quickly changed. You know, I tell people, if you have someone that's not super supportive, they'll quickly become supportive if they see success.
There it is. Yeah.
So I started to do some deals, and my wife's kind of like, you know what? Maybe you're onto something here. Maybe this is a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she quickly became supportive. I have this story I tell sometimes where I did this wholesale deal early on, and it was a $4,000 assignment.
Right.
And the guy paid me in cash, like
just
$100 bills. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
And so here's what I did. I got home. I knew my wife wasn't home. I got home, and I put the money, like I spread it out all over the house with little sticky notes that said, "Thank you for believing in me.
Oh wow.
I couldn't do this without you." Right.
And you made a believer out of her, right?
And then she comes home, and I'm lying on the bed like this, you know, with money everywhere. And awesome, and it was just it was really cool. And we took that money, we put it in a jar, and that was babysitting money for date night. Wow. And we didn't spend it on anything else, just that.
How long? That must have lasted a while.
Yeah. I mean, for a couple of years, like, and I told my wife, I said, let's do date night every single week. And we've got money set aside for babysitters. That's all this is for.
Wow.
And so she got behind it, and it was kind of a fun journey. Here's the interesting thing. Yeah. After that year, I said, okay, I'm ready. Let's go full time.
Wow, 1 year to go full time.
Yeah, it took me a year side hustling, doing, and so I needed to save up about $25,000. That's what I was basically earning in that job.
Yes.
Nothing, right? And so I had that set aside. I said, okay, let's go. My first month full time, where now I've got all my attention, right? I'm not distracted by the job.
Yep.
Just let's go every day. I did 5 wholesale deals and did $52,000 in assignment fees.
Wow.
In my first month full time.
That's amazing.
And so, you know, looking back now, I think, man,
it's a blessing right there, yeah.
Maybe I should have jumped in full time like way sooner. But you know, your journey's your journey. And I think I needed to go through that experience. I think I still learned a ton, like that part-time phase. But I quickly realized, man, when you can put all your attention at this, it's amazing what you can do in the business.
Gosh. So was that just you at that point when you went full time?
Oh, yeah.
Was just you, no VAs, nothing?
No, basically driving for dollars. I mean, this was almost 20 years ago. We didn't have the tools we have now.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, it was such a different way of doing things then. But that was
so those same tactics still work today, driving for dollars and talking to people.
Yeah. I mean, mostly it was just talking to people, making offers. Like that was my model, just not being afraid to just keep applying that. And I knew, hey, if I talk to people every day, I'm going to get deals.
Yeah.
Now, I think the one thing I don't talk about a lot that I did that I think really helped me to really grow and develop was I'd go to the public library and I'd check out CDs on all the greats. So Brian Tracy and Tom Hopkins and Zig Ziglar, the classics.
Yeah.
And while I'm driving around all day in my little beat up pickup truck,
mindset was on.
I'm listening for 8, 9, 10 hours a day, just listening.
Just building up that mindset.
And that was changed everything for me. Because I figured out that I had so many limiting beliefs.
Yes, yeah.
I was my own worst enemy. I was self-sabotaging. The only reason why I hadn't figured anything out till 27, it wasn't that I wasn't trying. I was in the way. All these doubts would come in, and disbelief, and not feeling worthy enough, and even still after like starting to make money, I would make a bunch of money and then I wouldn't make money. I'd go these spells, starting out.
It's a roller coaster, right?
I'd roller coaster. I had to really learn a lot about finance and money, and the book that was transformational for me was Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. He talks about these kind of wealth mindsets. And so that was a big deal for me.
That's been awesome up to this point. That's an incredible journey. So mindset seems to be like a huge thing that helps you take that leap.
I honestly feel like my success, and I think this can be generalized, is it's 90% mindset and maybe 10% strategy or technique.
Really?
Wholesaling the strategy of find a deal, sign it, make money, that's like 10% of the equation. The real estate between your ears is like where it's really at.
Yeah, because I've heard a lot of people say the most important thing is between your ears, right?
I think so. I really think so.
So now talking to Investor Drive Nation, right, and a bunch of new investors mainly, what would you recommend for people that are getting started? Would it be focus and develop an amazing mindset, or just take action and get into it and learn?
I think you just need to be super aware that the business model, wholesaling, flipping, whatever it is, the business model itself is important. You've got to have the strategy. You got to have the technique. You got to have the skill set. You got to learn that.
Right.
So dedicate the right amount of time to that and take action as part of that, because you're going to learn faster when you do than when you learn.
Of course.
But you also need to realize that none of that means anything if you're not constantly developing your mindset, because more than likely the environment you grew up in, there's a lot of negative associations around money and around success.
Did you feel like that was something you grew up with money?
And I didn't even know it. Yeah, it was subconscious. Like for example, I grew up in rural Michigan, really poor. My dad taught me that if you want to get ahead, you work hard.
Right.
So there was this direct association with hard work and money. Well, your mind says hard and money, and it doesn't know how to distinguish the difference. So all you've done is created an idea that money is hard. And I had that. So I thought...
Most people do, yeah.
Yeah, most people do. I thought money, it's going to take a long time. It's going to be really hard. And the reality is, there is no correlation between hard and money. Money can come easy, and it can come naturally, and it can come fast, right?
Yeah.
That's a mindset. It's not a thing. It's what you believe about money.
Because I think I heard some people say making the first 100,000 a year is like the hardest thing, and then after that Would you say that's true?
Oh yeah, I mean, I had a goal. I set a goal early on, Nathan, that I would do. You know how you write down your big goals? I had this goal that I would do. I would make $1 million on a single deal, and at the time I was doing $25,000 deals.
Sounded crazy. Right?
Yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah.
It was like, someday I'm going to do that. And but I always kept that as like this goal. And it felt like a 10-year slog, to get there. But then once I did that one, I've now done several more that were like way easy. It's like my mind it's like proof of concept.
Yes.
And now it's kind of reset a new way of thinking around doing big deals that I just didn't have for a long time. I had to work into that and figure that out.
Yeah, and that kind of reminds me of my experience. So I went to your fast track, right? Most of the experience of people in your fast track, they probably watch your videos, right? And then they're like, I like this Jerry guy. He's a nice guy, right? That's what people, and you're awesome. You're a great guy.
Thank you.
So I watched that and I said to my business partner, Corey, I'm like, we got to learn from this guy. He knows what he's doing. And it's either you figure it out yourself from trial and error, or you get a mentor, you get someone that's done it, and you just
skip some steps.
Skip their steps. Exactly. And that's what I've kind of learned is if you get yourself in the same room with higher level people and just copy them or follow what they do, you're going to fall in their footsteps, right?
Yeah.
So I got in there. We signed up for your fast track. I can't remember who I was talking with on the phone, right? Because they have someone that you have to apply.
Right, through the sales process.
So I talked to him. We negotiated the deal. Got there. We did the VIP because I was like, look, I can go to this fast track or I can meet, stay in your, I think at the time people were staying in.
At the house, house.
So I said, okay, I can pay a little extra and actually go to dinner with you, right? So we did the dinner thing. And my goal there was to, learn as much as I could from you. And at that time, me and Corey, we're business partners still, but 1 + 1, you talked about it.
Yeah.
We were 1 + 1 as a partnership equaled maybe 1.
Yeah.
We were like doing the same things.
I remember that. Yeah.
We were going on appointments together because we were buddies, we went to college together. So we would go close deals together. We would call sellers together. We were doing the same job. And you told us in the fast track, you're like, hey, you got to be careful of a partnership equaling 1 + 1 = 1. It needs to be 1 + 1 = like 10 or, so it needs, you need to complement each other. So after that, we separated roles, did much better. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is we were just wholesaling. And at that time, our biggest wholesale deal was like $45,000. Yeah. But since then, you said, hey guys, you need to go into flips. You need to level up. Wholesaling's great. Don't get me wrong. It's good. But level up to flips and then eventually, right, get into luxury.
Yeah, higher end.
Higher end. So, since we've gone to that fast track, we've done multiple $80,000 wholesale deals.
I've watched you, yeah.
And $100K plus flips. Now, haven't hit the $1 million flip yet. But
you're on, that's your trajectory though, Nathan.
That's the trajectory, yeah.
So Nathan, the thing that I love about you that's been really fun for me to watch is you're constantly surrounding yourself with other successful people. You're constantly learning and developing, and you're not okay with status quo. So you're trying to constantly move your company to that next level. Yeah, and in this industry, I really firmly believe that wholesaling, it can be the end all be all, but it's more useful as a stepping stone into other things.
Yeah, as an option, right?
And always a plan B.
Yeah.
Because anytime you have a deal that doesn't quite fit these other strategies, wholesale that baby, make your assignment fee, feed the engine, right? Pay the bills, keep the money coming in, maximize your leads. So I think having wholesaling as your kind of core roots is a phenomenal backbone, right? Or foundation to your real estate business. Right. I look at people who maybe don't know how to wholesale and I'm like, man, you're missing out. You're missing out because wholesaling is the easiest, smoothest way to off deals that don't fit your bigger strategies. Right. So we start out with that being the main thing, and I did too. I mean, if we go back to kind of like my story, I wholesaled for about 2 years before I touched my first fix and flip.
Was that nerve-wracking to go from straight wholesaling?
I didn't want to do it. Yeah, I was like, I don't want to learn rehabbing. I don't want to deal with contractors. I don't want to raise money. I don't want to do all that. I just want to kind of keep doing these wholesale deals. What happened though was, when I say I didn't want to, I was reluctant. I was scared.
It's new. So
I was scared of the new thing. Yeah.
Holding costs and, all that stuff.
At the time, this is Detroit, the market's kind of starting to fall out there. And what happened is I called it the cheap factor. Well, California money and even foreign money was like looking at Detroit going, man, I can buy houses for $10,000 and $20,000. So all this outside buyers were coming in. And so I started wholesaling to these guys. But the problem is these were buy and hold people. And I couldn't wholesale them the next deal until they got that one like fixed up and rented.
Right.
So I was like, man, this is slowing me down. Yeah. So I'd go to these buyers and I said, hey, well, I found you the deal. Why don't I get the rehab done? Why don't I
place the tenant?
Place the tenant.
Oh, nice.
So I built out this kind of turnkey model and did really well with it. I mean, we were doing 70, 80 turnkey rentals where I'd buy it, fix it. I even had property managers, they'd place the tenant. I'd package it and sell it to these foreign investors or out-of-state investors.
Wow.
And
by the way, a lot of foreigners.
A lot of foreigners. We were
Israel. A lot of.
We were selling Israel, Australia, England, like a lot of foreign buyers, because the price point was like $50,000-$60,000 for
so cheap.
With a tenant paying $800 a month.
So were they able to kind of not overpay, but pay more than if you would have just wholesaled it?
Yeah. So at the time, I mean, these are just crazy numbers. I would buy a house for 10. I'd put 10 into it, and I'd sell it for 50.
I love it. Yeah. And that's placing the tenant and doing.
Yeah.
Did you own the property management company as well, or did you?
No.
Because I know a lot of people do that as well.
A lot of people do that as well. What happened then was, okay, 08 comes, so let me back up a second. a lot of my buyers, they would buy them, refinance, buy another one. They do cash out refis. Right. And at the time,
the Burr, right?
Sort of, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they would buy it for me as the wholesaler.
Oh, not a Burr. They didn't do the rehab.
Right. Okay. Yeah. They were just buying turnkey, but they were buying them for 50. They were appraising for 80.
They're making money too.
They'd cash out, pull the cash out, buy another one. So I'd sell one guy 10 houses. And then financing fell out when 08 came. So the financial crash, no longer were they doing these refinance loans, especially these. These were like, they called them the ninja loans, which was like no income, no verification, no nothing.
They don't have those anymore, right?
No. If you could fog a mirror, they'd give you a loan.
Gosh. And that's why 2008 happened.
Yeah,
right?
that's why it happened. Yeah. You know, I was part of it. I was selling houses where these guys were doing...
You made some good money off of it, huh?
They were doing these ninja loans. And so when that fell out, I said, well, now what do I do? So I just went retail. I started fixing and flipping. I moved out of the low income, moved up into like first-time buyers. So these were like $150,000 houses.
Did you have your license, by the way?
Yes. So I got my real estate license from day one.
Okay, day one.
At the time, if you didn't have MLS, you were really limited. There wasn't software and tools like there is today.
There wasn't like Flipster.
There wasn't Flipster and these other ones, yeah. So MLS was useful. Now, I still believe even today, having a license, there's so many benefits. Yeah. But I started doing retail. Now, at the time, buyers would struggle to get financing still. So I'd go through like 3 FHA buyers before one could close on a flip. But I just took the flipping model and I went retail. And by the way, the whole time I'm still wholesaling. I'm just trying to be selective. Mm-hmm. And then Nathan, something transformational that changed my life and career happened. I was doing these $150,000 kind of starter homes. Yeah. I'd make about 25, 30 on a flip. I got pretty good at it. It was kind of cookie cutter. A lot of these were like bank properties I'd buy. And I had one of these bank real estate agents call me and they said, hey, Jerry, I got this property that I think you'll like, but it's in this higher price area. Okay, so I look at it and it's like a $375,000 house.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, whoa, I've never done a deal like this.
That's high right there.
And I'm looking at it, I'm going, man, needs a kitchen, needs paint and carpet. You know, maybe I got to spend a little more on appliances, but doesn't really feel like it's that much different. Bigger house though, you know, nice big, like a 3,000 square foot house, not a 1,000 square foot house. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. So I do this deal, scary, out of my comfort zone.
Again.
And I flip it and I make $75,000 on the flip. And I sat down and I'm like, I made $75,000 on this flip. Normally I make 25 on these smaller houses. Man, it was the same work, same time. Gosh. I had to get a little bit more money for it, right? But same time, energy, and effort, but I made 3 times as much.
Because the risk, you could say the risk, if you just look at it, was a little bit bigger, right?
Well, a little bit more capital. I mean, buyers in that neighborhood were paying $375 left and right, just like they were paying $150 in these other neighborhoods.
Right.
So no different there. There's a buyer.
But you originally, it was new to you, so maybe you felt originally like it was a little riskier, right?
For more, because I'm borrowing money for these deals, right? So a bit higher payment on my interest loans and stuff. I had to do the rehab a little bit different, but not really much. I mean, I used the same contractors. Yeah, because it was only a town over, right, from where I've been doing deals. And so I had this major aha moment about the higher end model. And so I went from doing like 70 fix and flips a year.
Which is a lot.
I mean, that's 10, 15 deals going on at a time.
Yes.
Like it was stressful. Yeah. Stressed out of my mind all the time. Running around rehabbing everywhere. I'm the bottleneck, right? Because I got to make all these decisions. Didn't really have good systems in place. But I'm trying, right? Yeah. And so then I do this deal and then I say, you know what? I'm going to focus on 300 to 600,000, not 100 to 200. Got it. And so I just changed a little bit the neighborhoods I was targeting. And the next year, I think I did 10 or 15 deals, 70, excuse me.
Getting choked up of how it's making you remember the good old days.
And I made more money doing 10 or 15 deals than I did previously doing the 70 deals.
And you definitely take the 10 or 15 over the 70.
Oh my gosh, my lifestyle was so much better. Yeah. I was happier. I was making more money. And that just changed everything.
That was the aha moment.
Yeah. Right, it was such an aha moment for me. And from that moment on, I just kept pushing the higher price points.
Where are you at now, would you say? What's the highest price point you got into?
I'm working on a project where we're doing $8 to $10 million.
Really?
$8 to $10 million.
Oh
homes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so before this project, I've been in the 3 to 5 million a little bit.
Take it back to your 27-year-old, brand new. Could you imagine then doing an $8 to $10 million project?
It would just be the scariest thing imaginable. Yeah.
You'd probably be like, I'll go back to the ditch.
Yeah.
You know, because that's scary. I mean, that's scary. That's huge.
You know, it's interesting, when I broke the million, like sale price, so ARV $1 million, I remember feeling like, man, this is taking me so long. I mean, I think it was, 8 to 10 years from that first initial wholesaling to my first $1 million price point. So it's not like I got there overnight. Now, I think people can do it way faster.
Yeah, tell me about that. Do you think, looking back, you think you could have jumped there?
Oh, yeah. Like
2-3 years?
You can get to million 10 times faster than I did.
Could I do it today if I find the right property?
I think you're close, yeah. I think you have enough tools.
I have to find that.
If your mind's, I think it's just the capital.
You need the money. And sometimes hard money lenders will lend on the repair costs too.
Totally.
I mean,
I just felt like it was such a big move to get up there. So I did it slow. I did it incrementally. I was like 600. Okay, now let's try 700. Now let's try 800. And then when I did $1 million, I played around at $1 million for a little bit. And then I said, okay, I'm ready to go to $3 million. So I moved to Phoenix because Scottsdale, Arizona is the market. Like, there's a market for it. When I say a market for it, there's enough buyers paying 3 to 5.
And Scottsdale's
it's a bit,
nice area,
Scottsdale, right? Not all markets have it. So before that, I was doing St. George, Utah at $1 million. Well,
and that's probably the cap.
That's a cap. Yeah. I mean, there's some going higher, but there's not a market for it, whereas Scottsdale there is. So go to Scottsdale.
Is that where you originally moved there?
I wanted to break into more higher end luxury. And so my first couple deals at the 3 million, my first one I lost money, my next two broke even.
Did the first one you lost money? Did that kind of scare you from going further, or were you like?
No, at that point I knew it was part of the process.
Do you mind me asking how much you lost?
200,000, and it took 2 years. Yeah.
Wow, but you learned a lot.
Oh yeah. So I did everything wrong. I overpaid on my landscaping. These are new construction, by the way. So
you took from the brand new.
Bought a lot, built.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that was not rehabbing.
Not rehabbing.
Okay.
No. Did a couple of rehabs in that window of time, but basically it took me about 3 years to figure it out. But I was invested. I'm looking at it like, what is it going to take for me to break into $3 to $5 million homes? What do I got to do? What do I got to learn? And I'm willing to make that sacrifice. I'm willing to pay that price. Most people aren't. I was. And it worked, because then that fourth deal was $1 million profit deal. Because I figured things out. That one we did fast. It was a year deal.
Okay. Yep. So this is all new construction. I thought you were finding, just in my mind, I thought you were finding maybe a really distressed, like $2 million home for like $500,000.
So I've done 2 since then that are like that.
But would you say those are a little bit more difficult to find than doing it?
Well, today those are actually easier because, and the reason why is because the permitting, the architectural process, that stuff's gotten so hard now. So like it takes a year to 18 months before we can break ground. Whereas before we could do it a lot faster. That's post-COVID.
Yeah.
Just post-COVID, yeah.
Well, I want to outline some of the Investor Nation people are watching. It sounds like your journey has been like constantly going to the next level and doing something out of your comfort zone, right? So you leave your job, right, after a year and go into wholesaling. And then I think you said 2 years you went into flipping, right?
Yeah.
And then after that you started going high luxury. And so everything has been like something, like we've talked about it in your fast track, the dip. So would you say you're constantly going through a dip?
Yeah, in fact, I intentionally put myself back into the dip, meaning I know now that the only way I'm going to progress and grow is if I get myself back into an uncomfortable place, out of my comfort zone.
Right.
So I've taught myself now, and I think this is an acquired skill, that if things are humming along and I'm feeling good and everything's great, trouble's coming.
Oh gosh. Are you going to make the trouble, or is
so
it
I make
coming?
the trouble, meaning I'm going to become complacent.
Got it.
And I'm going to become irrelevant. So complacency and irrelevancy are the kiss of death in business. And what I've learned is that markets and technology change so fast now that the minute you're in complacency, you're in trouble because you're going to become obsolete.
And I think that's what people want to get to, a point where they're complacent, right? At least that's what the dream is, like, oh,
it's
I
the
can
dream.
Relax. You've been to those places.
It's the worst. Don't ever go there. In fact, I hear people tell me all the time, I just want to be comfortable. I just want to, and I'm like, that's the worst thing you could ask for is comfort. Wow. Yeah, because where there's comfort, there's no longer growth. So now that uncomfortable, like, man, I'm in a scary place, actually feels right. Feels good. Doesn't feel bad.
Yeah.
It feels scary in that it's uncomfortable, but it feels good in that I know growth is happening. I know growth is coming.
It's crazy. And we were kind of talking about this before this interview. You've been doing the kettlebells.
Yeah.
You're uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, I do this Russian kettlebell workout. That's really difficult. Yeah.
And most people, you're definitely uncomfortable doing that.
Oh
right?
my gosh.
It's very difficult. Most people, so you're feeling the pain, and I told you I'm doing jujitsu and getting choked out, and it's uncomfortable. But in order to level up, you got to do the uncomfortable things. And most people probably look at you and be like, I'd love to be with Jerry's and just relax, just be complacent, right? But you're telling Investor Drive Nation, I'm always trying to get in situations where I can, not be comfortable so I can level up.
Yeah, and so you have to ask yourself constantly all the time, am I in a comfort zone? How do I get out of this comfort zone? Right now I live in Puerto Rico, and I'm working on this deal that I'm trying to put together, which is a 20-lot project, oceanfront, and these are $8 to $10 million homes. I've never done $8 to $10 million homes.
Yeah, you've never done deals in Puerto Rico.
I've never done Puerto Rico. This is scary. This is way outside of my comfort zone, but it's just far enough outside where it's going to cause this big stretch, but I'm far enough along to where I can pull this off. So when I say get out of your comfort zone and take risk, you can't be at a level 3 and jump to a level 8. That's too much.
For me, I'm not going to jump into
you're going to screw up
$3 million
right
now.
But you can jump into $750,000 or whatever
maybe even the $1 million.
Maybe even $1 million.
Even if, for example, I feel comfortable now flipping a house because we know our numbers. If a house is worth $1 million and I get it for $500,000, the rehab's $200,000. What would that be, like a $200,000 flip?
Yeah, that should be where you're aiming for. Yeah. So I look at it like a scale of 0 is no risk at all, to 10 is you've got a really strong risk muscle and a capacity to take on and manage risk. It's all about managing risk, right? So if someone listening right now, you're at a level 3, then what does a level 4 look like? Go there.
Yeah, that's good.
Push yourself to that 4. And when you're at a 4, then work on 5.
Yeah, it's like if you're in the NBA, you got a G League or not even a G League, like a high school, you're not going to go against, LeBron James. You're not ready yet.
You're going to get killed. Levels. Yeah. But you can go to that next level.
Yeah, the G League or whatever college. That's cool. So for people that are starting out, they don't have to feel like, oh, I need to freaking level up. I need to get there immediately. You have steps. That's good.
In fact, it doesn't even matter where you're at. I don't care if you're at a 5 right now or you're at a 1 right now. That's not the point. The point is, where are you at? Be real with yourself. The hardest thing, I think, Nathan, is self-confrontation. We have such a hard time being real with ourselves. We want to think things are different than what they really are. So being self-aware of where you're really at and being able to be real with that and then say, okay, this is where I'm at. Yeah. What does it look like to go to the next level? That's leveling up.
So it sounds to me like successful people like yourself are, like we talked about, they're not complacent. They're always trying to level up. And that's why they're getting places other people don't, because they're not just okay with just sitting somewhere.
That's why, Nathan, you will surpass me by far.
I don't know.
Because I see even more of that in you than even I had at your age.
Trying to level up?
You're always leveling up. Yeah, you're trying to level up. You're trying to level up at a pace and at a level that is going to get you to do amazing things.
I appreciate that. And I think what's
important, it's exciting.
No, it is. It's exciting to be here with you. I mean, when I joined that Fast Track 2 years ago, did I think I'd be interviewing Jerry Norton, the GOAT, on my YouTube channel that I didn't even have a year ago?
Yeah.
It's really cool. And I think what's really important is you got to thank people along the way. You can't just get places. And I'm sure you've done that too. You probably had so many influences in your life.
So many influences, yeah.
Gratitude is huge, right? Being grateful. But I want to talk about something maybe people don't know that I think you'd be okay to talk about is, didn't you take a year off in RV or something and still worked and with your family? Yeah,
so that's when I went virtual with my business. I was doing everything in Metro Detroit, and my wife and I took we did an RV trip. So at the time we had 6 kids, and we piled them all in an RV and we traveled for a year. And I still worked, but I was like maybe 20 hours a week. But here's the crazy thing. My real estate business did more that year than any year previously. And that's when I really started to learn the value of a team and systems and processes. I know these are things you're working on a lot.
So important.
So important. I didn't see the value in it so much until I wasn't there. For me anyway, it took me getting out of the way. And I was like, man, I'm the one that's screwing everything up because everything has to go through me. And when I wasn't there, I was forced to rely more on other people, bring in talent, work on processes. And so now I'm such a firm believer in the two key components are the right people and the right processes and systems. That's how you build a business.
And it takes time to get there too, right?
Yeah, you got to get the right butts in the right seats. You got to understand how to use the technology, right? You got to develop those processes. That takes time.
Yeah, and that's something I've learned from you and a lot of people is just like to build great things, you have to have a solid team behind you.
Oh, yeah.
To do it yourself. Could you imagine doing what you're doing all by yourself right now?
So it's interesting the progression I went through. So when I first started to build a team, my mindset was, if somebody else can do it 80% as good as me, that's good enough because at least now I don't have to do it. And so that's what I thought. And so I attracted that. It took me a minute, but I realized I can actually bring on people into my team that are way better than me at that particular thing. And so now I'm surrounding myself.
Coding and marketing and all these things.
Yeah, even sales.
I mean, look at Flipster. Imagine trying to do that yourself, right? That would be pretty difficult.
And we're bringing on some new developers that are going to be able to take it to a new level. So I really believe now that you can surround yourself with people that can do their particular thing way better than you can. Right. And that's been huge in my progress to build out a successful company.
And that probably feels good because you're not only elevating yourself and your brand and your business, but you're helping other people develop great incomes, lives as well.
Totally. And A players are amazing people to be around, amazing people to work with. They don't need oversight. They don't need babysitting. They're self-driven. And it's just game changer for your business to have that kind of people.
Nothing's better than an employee that does exactly what he's supposed to do better than you can, right? I have a virtual assistant that I tell her to do something once and it's done. I haven't had that very often.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's amazing. It's the best feeling. I'm explaining to her what the tasks I need to be done. And I'm used to having to explain myself multiple times for VAs to get it. But she's like, boss, I get it.
Yeah.
I got it. You don't have to say it anymore. I got it. I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. And I'm assuming as you level up, you have more people like that on your team.
Yeah, and you'll probably end up putting her in management and training her to bring on other VAs, since you know what I mean? Yeah. So, yeah, that's great.
It's a beautiful thing when you find the right people. It's awesome. But hey, Investors Drive Nation, thanks for tuning in. We've been, talking with Jerry Norton about his life and what's got him there. And I think we've learned some awesome nuggets. Do you have anything else? One last thing, a golden nugget. We already dropped a lot. Do you have one last thing you'd like to tell new investors? Kind
of the thing I'm talking about a little bit right now as of this recording is we're seeing some shifts in the market. And I think people need to be aware and really quick to adapt. And so I think the most successful investors are the ones that adapt the quickest. So as we're seeing the market shift, maybe a slowdown, we're seeing higher interest rates, these things that are going on, I look at that and I get really excited because whenever there's changes, that means doors are going to close and doors are going to open.
Opportunities to make
more money. Or be an early implementer. So right now, look at these things going on and ask yourself, where are the opportunities and how can I be an early implementer? And be quick to adapt.
So right now might even be a great time to get into real estate right now.
A phenomenal time, yeah. I mean, I believe any time is the right time, but because now's a great time, yeah.
Always. Well, Jerry, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, everybody.
See you.